Take a look at this umbrella. It used to be an umbrella and it used to be functional. Now this is not much use. And if you take a look to the right of me, you'll see that there's this sign that's literally shaking in the sand because of the high winds that are happening right now. Phosphorus is what this debate is all about. It's one of the main ingredients inside of chicken manure. Meanwhile, fertilizer doesn't have phosphorus in it, but it's also a little more expensive. They were driving down this road right here when a pickup truck came flying down this road and the driver passed out at the wheel after drinking. Now, I'm no ice cream chef, but I'm a little bit of an amateur, but here you can see, make some ice cream, delivering the first gift to some lovely children here. Here you guys go. And tell me, what do you want for Christmas?
I want an American Girl doll and world peace.
World peace. And what about for you?
I want diamonds, an iPad, and a trip to Disney.
World peace and diamonds. Now, these officers would only be using these tasers if they were in a situation where they felt like they were in danger. They would turn, point it at the subject, and press the trigger. 5 seconds later, the subject is subdued. El enfoque por este evento es sobre el idioma. And if you speak English, then you probably didn't understand what I just said, and that's the problem for Hispanics who are trying to sign up for Obamacare. Now, being overseas during the holidays can be a little lonely, and so at this event, they also have these long scrolls, some of them hundreds of feet long, and on them you can write a little message to troops overseas. I'm sending some love from WBOC.
And of course, drawing a snowman.
After attending this meeting, I did give the Delaware State Police a call to speak about Russell's comments. According to neighbors, the body of the 23-year-old was found inside of this door in this apartment complex, and outside on the stairwell, you could actually still see splatters of blood as well as one of the bullets. In 2012, there were 21,202 accidents on Delaware roads. But what does that number really mean? Right here are about 15 cars lined up in a row. That would mean that each of these cars need to get into 1,413 accidents to reach that number. Now, many of these people are self-proclaimed Renaissance rednecks because these machines are complicated, but they also built them most of the time in their garages. And take a look, they wind it up themselves.
And a few moments later, these pumpkins are gone.
In the aftermath of the fire, you could find ash, glass, pieces of the building, and screws like this one right here next to the building. And now many of the people that have stayed here over the years are hoping that it could be back and open for the summer months. Now, one of the biggest concerns that some people have as far as smoking goes is that they don't like all the cigarette butts that are left on the boardwalk and on the beach. I asked some of them whether they feel safe, and many of them say they typically do, but events like this surely make them a little more cautious. All 67 of the fires which he is charged with setting happened here in Accomack County, but remarkably, not a single person was injured from these fires. That's because most of them happened in abandoned shelters like this one. What to do when a fox attacks? We'll tell you what one Denton woman did when she became face-to-face with a rabid animal. Now, Fish says that dogs will be dogs. Her dog likes to eat, her dog likes to bark, and her dog likes to play fetch. It's not quite as windy and cold here in Salisbury as it is on the coastlines, but there's still some wind out here and it is continuing to rain. But let me talk about those coasts real quick. I was there both in Maryland and Delaware, and let me tell you, it is wet out there. And the thing is, this is not even over yet, as some of the biggest threats for flooding is yet to come.
Just look at these waves in Ocean City, crashing down as tall as 12 feet in some places, and most were smart enough to stay at home, but the brave few were there to face the storm.
It's very wet, it's very windy, high waves. Like I said, sand is blasting in the face and rain, and I'm drenched.
That was Jeff Auer of Ocean Pines. I had to ask him what he was thinking walking out in the fall's first storm.
Not many people are out here. What are you doing out here?
Taking pictures. I like to take pictures of things like this, so.
Clearly it is wet, but it's also windy. Take a look at this umbrella. Clearly, this is feeling the strain of this storm passing through.
I command all elements, so this is nothing for me.
Some, though, like Brian Pilmack of Ocean City, are not deterred by the strong winds and heavy rains of the storm, saying this is just a regular part of living on the coastline.
I live right downtown, and the streets around me are always flooded when we get this kind of weather. So when I venture out, I got to be really careful with the car and all.
As the winds blow on, Jeff Auer considers whether his visit to the beach was worth all the stress.
And I haven't experienced a real good nor'easter yet, so now I am, and we know better next time. I don't think we'll come down.
And as the rain continues, he, like many others, is staying warm inside.
Now that coastal flood advisory is going to continue into the night, and as that high tide approaches, that's when we might have the biggest threat of flooding. Both in Delaware and in Maryland, that is expected to be right around midnight. So we're urging people to stay inside, avoid driving on the roads, and to keep warm. Reporting live in Wycomico County,
Evan Koslof, WBOC News, Salisbury. Yeah, Paul, Curtis Scott has been serving in Afghanistan for just over a year, and he says sometimes when your spirits are down, nothing can energize you more than a letter or package from home. And that's what this haunted house is all about, creating some scares, but also raising money to brighten up a soldier's day. A left foot hangs from the ceiling in a Laurel barn. A right hand dangles nearby. It's all part of an elaborate haunted house opening up on Wednesday night. But a visit to this soon-to-be terrifying house does more than just rattle your bones. It helps support the troops.
I love my son. You know, he's 2 days away from his birthday, and I just couldn't imagine life without him. I just couldn't do it.
That's Terry Scott. Don't worry, that's fake blood on his mock. And next to him is his son Curtis, who just returned from Afghanistan. The haunted house on their farm is raising money for Operation We Care, which sends care packages to soldiers like Curtis.
Anytime anybody gets a box, they're like, "Oh, cool, what'd you get?" And everyone just checks out, see what someone got, and what some people had to say if anything new's happening back home.
Scott says when you are hundreds of miles away, a simple letter can make all the difference.
It feels like, you know, you're getting to see a piece of your family even though you're not there. I mean, everyone, you can tell immediately when someone's had a letter from their family, or they're just walking around there. You can tell just by the smile on their face, they're walking around quite a bit happier.
Awesome.
And that's why Terry wants to send packages to other soldiers who continue to serve.
Soldiers deserve everything. They're over there, and they're really laying their lives on the line.
Back home for just another couple of days, Curtis sits down with his family for a Delmarva crab dinner. I ask him why he serves. He says it's so his family can do the little things, like run a haunted house on a quiet farm. Now, this event is certainly a good cause, but from what I saw today, it's also a fairly elaborate haunted house. They have 33 actors spread around the set, and it will certainly be enough to create some fear in even the most brave visitors. I know that I'll be there. Paul, Alice?
Evan, we need to get some videos to see how scared you're going to be at that haunted house.
Yes, we do.
I spoke to a man today who was supposed to begin training to become a warrant officer this week. To do that, he had to open up 2 months of his life. But now, after quitting his job just days before heading to the camp, he finds out that it's canceled due to the shutdown. Keith Watson always looked up to his grandfather. Nicholas T. Paul had a long career in the military, even fighting in World War II.
This is March of last year.
But when he died at 95 last year, Watson went on a mission to honor his grandfather through service.
He's what spurred my service initially and definitely inspired me to become a warrant officer.
So he quit his job and started training. 44 years old, he was one of the oldest members at his warrant officer candidate school. A gritty, difficult boot camp, but he made it through. Next step was the Warrant Officer Basic course at Fort Lee in Virginia. But just 2 days before he was meant to leave, he gets a call.
Military training, and we'll be
Due to the government shutdown, he will not be going to the training this year.
This can't happen to soldiers and their families. I mean, it can't. It just can't. You can't make the decision to serve, to uproot your life, to go, all right, you know, I'm going to resign from my job, or I'm going to, let's say I didn't resign from my job, and I just took 2 months away from my job.
Now, Watson is unemployed, and he's not alone. While most of the nearly 750 full-timers are being paid, all of the nearly 2,000 part-timers are furloughed due to the shutdown.
The expectation can't be, to me as a citizen soldier, go find a way to pay your mortgage. We're broke. And the people that are telling me they're broke are getting paid. Come here, look.
A concern Watson says is not just for him, but for the entire country.
The Army cannot function without the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard. The military cannot function without us. Over 250,000 guardsmen served in Iraq and Afghanistan. But we're seen to be the low-hanging fruit and the forgotten very quickly. And the concern is we'll go feral very quickly.
For now, Watson waits, unsure how or when he'll get to honor his grandfather's legacy. Now, this isn't happening just in Delaware, but across the country. The National Guard is funded 95% by the federal government, while only 5% by the state. And this cut in funding means guardsmen like Watson are unable to get the training they signed up for. And it means thousands will be losing their paycheck this month. Back to you, Alice. We can all probably think of either a movie or TV show that showed a memorable disabled character, whether it's Professor X from the X-Men franchise, John Merrick from The Elephant Man, or my personal favorite, Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. We all remember at least some of these famous roles. And today, a new documentary not only celebrated these famous roles, but also looked at what progress has been made in their portrayal over the years. A little bit of Hollywood in Salisbury, the premiere for a brand new movie right at Regal Cinemas. And if you are a fan of Breaking Bad, we've got news. R.J. Mitty, a.k.a. Walter Jr., a.k.a. Flynn, was in attendance.
Television and film is a very big deal because what people see in the media, what people see on television, what people relate to is television and film.
The movie Cinemability is a documentary focusing on the ever-changing portrayals of disabled people in film and TV. Stars like Ben Affleck, Jamie Foxx, and the 21-year-old Breaking Bad star all had something to say.
There's 11 million people around the world with disabilities, but there's only 2% of people that are represented in film and television that have disabilities. Now, think about that. Everyone wants to have someone that they can look at and they can see and say, that's me.
Inside, director Jenny Gold enjoys her premiere.
It's great. The people of Salisbury have been very warm and inviting and enthusiastic about us bringing Cinemability to Salisbury.
Did you hear what I said, Forrest? You're the same as everybody else.
The movie samples hundreds of clips from the silent era to the modern age.
The message is one of inclusion, and that's what we're calling this tour, the Campaign for Inclusion.
Mitty, who's worked on the project for 6 long years, says the takeaway is simple.
Anyone can achieve anything. Having a disability is one more thing you have knowledge about that no one will ever understand.
An understanding that's growing as movies like this tell a story once untold. Now, this screening benefited many local organizations such as MAC Inc., the Somerset Wellness Center, and the Lower Shore Enterprises. Tickets were $15, with a portion of the money raised going to these groups. There will be 8 more stops on this 10-city tour across the country. Back to you, Cleo.